Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to our next episode of Masters of Product. Our topic for today, it's actually one of the topics I love, is AI isn't just a strategy and what CPOs get wrong when they're implementing AI. To help us figure that out, in our studio today, we have Ryon Packer. Ryon is CPO at Motus, and he's a transformational product leader who has built several high-performing product teams and knows how to align technology with market, which is really important as you're building products, and knows how to drive growth. As for me, I'm your host, Mustafa Kapadia. I help product organizations use AI to become faster, think better, make better decisions, and build better products. You can learn more about me and my services at echo-point.com. And Ryon, welcome to the show. I've been looking forward to it ever since we talked a few weeks ago. I'm like, this is a fantastic topic, right? If it's okay with you, let's kind of jump in, yeah?
Yeah, I'd love to.
So the topic itself is great because AI isn't a strategy, right? And so tell me, and you talk to a lot of CPOs as well, like everyone is racing to do something with AI, right? Either you're using it to build a product, either they're trying to change the industry, either they're trying to use AI to actually just make themselves more efficient and effective internally. What are you seeing in the market right now? I'm curious.
Like everybody, I think you're seeing just about everything in the marketplace. And unfortunately, if you're a fan of like the Gartner hype cycle or stuff like that, we are still definitely in that early, like just the expectations are so high. And I guess what we're seeing the most is not benefits or market alignment. What we're seeing is marketecture, but like marketecture in the worst way, where people are just trying to be able to stick the AI badge on them and on their product as quickly as they can. But how that's coming through as far as the benefit to the end user or the customer or even the company, it's like, great, you got the badge. You can use it now with your marketing campaigns, or your sales team can claim it.
And marketing is notorious. They're the first ones to use any kind of new badge that comes in, right?
But I mean, you kind of have to, because we as consumers create this vacuum in the marketplace that says, well, if you're going to buy a new product, it has to be AI enabled.
Yes.
And so then all of a sudden your first filter becomes, well, does it do that? But the market's not at the point where they can actually judge and say, no, we're looking for this kind, or we're looking for this capability.
Yes.
We just need some of this. Just give me some and it'll be great. And it's it's unfortunate. It's social media is really a great example of when something happens out there and it's just all of a sudden you see it everywhere.
Yes.
And it's like, that's what's happening in product. That's what's happening with tech.
Yeah. Have you seen examples of that? Just, I'm curious, right? Because I see it all the time. I see it in the marketing of products. I see marketing of companies, even services firms. And then of course it's all over social media as well. I'm curious to see if you've seen, if you have vivid examples of people just going all over crazy with AI.
I mean, I don't want to disparage any actual.
We don't have to talk about the specific companies, but yes.
Yeah.
But more about the incident.
Yeah, I was driving the other day and listening to National Public Radio and heard one of their things come across where a global software company came on and said, here's the global sponsored by this segment, sponsored by blah, 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 the AI platform. And I was like, okay, we use that software. And I can't figure out why but that was, that they put the stake in the ground. They're like, no, we are the AI platform. And, for some companies, they're big enough and they have the horsepower where they can really, almost like the Babe Ruth kind of thing, where they're going to call the ball. They're like, this is where we're going. This is what we're going to be known for. And we're going to tell you ahead of time because we can show you that we're putting tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars behind going that direction. Yeah. And so, as much as I gagged when I heard that, I was like, okay, but I can see where a company of that size and that caliber, 100%. They can call that. Yeah. But for so many other companies, just to be able to get it on their website and start saying it, and you're like, well, tell me really what are you doing that is not machine learning, that is not trend-based analysis, which is not just deterministic with a bunch of rules behind it. That's really like the machine is solving a problem. You're creating something that has large knowledge bases to find new and interesting ways to solve problems, not just apply known skill sets.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I completely get it why companies do it, and I think it makes sense. I also think that the drawback is that it floods the market with AI, that it almost becomes either the consumer or the purchaser or the decision maker becomes numb to AI, right? Because they're like, well, it's AI, everything. Or being numb to AI is being generous, or becomes extremely skeptical as well. Because they're like, well, everything's AI, right?
Well, and that's
the challenge that people have. Sorry.
Yeah, it drives that huge growth of expectation. Yeah. And if you follow the hype cycle, what comes after that is the trough of disillusionment.
Yeah.
It's where people are like, what is this really? How's it? I mean, I understand it's AI, but I don't understand how it's going to help me run my business, how it's 100%. Going to help us be more profitable, more effective, more efficient, whatever the objective is. After that is then when it really starts coming through, and when the real benefits start being delivered. And it's we're talking about all the negatives, but there are companies out there that are figuring out and kind of sticking to their mainstream objective and really delivering amazing things with this new technology.
100%. There's amazing things that people are doing and experimenting with. And it always boggles my mind about how people are being so creative about how they use AI, right? Actually, I want to go into that one too, is because I want to start off with saying, what are people doing and how are they using AI in weird ways? I'm curious. You start off the conversation with the Gartner hype cycle. In your opinion, where are we in the hype cycle?
We're definitely just where expectations are exploding. And there are no standards. Anybody who's chasing the AI ball right now, the challenge that you have is you'll just get good at doing something, and the next quarter there's a new version or a new vendor or a new player or a new whatever. And so it reminds me of, you can tell by my hair color that I'm old enough that I've kind of seen some of these waves before. And one of my early products as a product manager was a HTML plugin that competed with Flash.
Yes.
Back before Flash was the standard, and it was our product and everybody else's product, and everybody was just clamoring to say, do it our way because we're going to be the best and we handle this. And it kind of feels like that right now. And I think back to what decisions that we made, even just in January, as to how we were going to pursue it. We are right now shifting off of those decisions and moving to different solutions 100%. To be able to advance and move forward. So
exactly,
I think we still have a ways to go before there's the defaults, the standards, the proven kind of solutions that you can build really long-term plans on. Right now, we are at that kind of bleeding edge of the tech.
We are. And what's weird is that if you had asked me this question last year, towards the end of the year, I was like, you know what? I think we're finally at the top of the curve, and we're actually starting down to the trough of delusion. And then the way new things have been introduced in the market just in the last 4 months, right, has taken that and has set expectations even higher. Because I think people are just building so much things so much faster and releasing it, is that people are now like, oh, I thought we were here. Now we can do this, and now we can do this more, and now we can do this more. So I think it's kind of a weird thing in which expectations keep getting racked up. But at the same time, like you said, companies are doing awesome things that we never thought about, right? Actually, let's talk about that, because I know we started off talking about how people are using it and the hype cycle, and and where it's kind of flooding the market. But I'm curious, where have you seen people using AI well, or companies using AI well, right?
So the obvious things right now are a big step that AI is taking is we've spent so many decades trying to build software and developing product design disciplines, user experience disciplines to create a funneling mechanism to get people productive. So you have to get them to identify a problem that they have, figure out a way to solve that problem for them, but then also figure out a way to get them to feel comfortable solving the problem that way, to become proficient solving the problem that way. So we built these interfaces to do all of that. And the interesting thing we've got now is that with agentic AI, we've now created this ability where the interface is becoming very different.
Yes.
And it's becoming this prompt-driven world where it's instead of having to know which menu and which button and how to use that function and those kinds of things, it's how do you pose your request in such a way that you can get the answer that you're looking for.
Yes, 100%.
It's no less complex. It's just something that's more natural because we all believe that we can verbally communicate well.
Yes.
And it's really fun that, whenever we first, I think all of us, when we first started taking prompting courses online and really trying to test our prompt abilities, and we realized I've been talking for X number of decades so far, and I kind of blow at it. I'm not really good at this because I'm saying something that I think is totally clear, but I'm getting the wrong results.
Yes, 100%.
And you're having to retrain, so there's this huge shift of bringing this new type of interface into the product world and giving our users the ability to do something that feels more natural, even though it forces them to develop new skills with that thing that they are naturally using.
I 100% agree. I think the way you ask questions with large language models matters tremendously, right? Because when we ask a question, there's so much hidden context behind it that we have to actually put it into the LLM, right? So it's a classic thing, the iceberg analogy. The question you ask is just like the 10% above the iceberg, and then there's 90% context behind it. I also think it also creates another challenge, is because having a list of menu actually focuses your brain and says, okay, these are the 5 things that I can do.
Right.
If you just have a chatbot, which is a black blinking cursor, now you're like, wait a minute, I now have to decide what I want to do. Then I got to go ask that question.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that causes people to, again, just rethink how they work. Right. And I actually think that it'll be easier because a lot of times you've known this, in which you get a menu and you're like, well, these are not 5 choices I want. I want a choice 6, but it's not in the menu. Right. So I think it's a transition of both how product managers use AI, how the consumers use AI, how people use AI across the world, across whatever they're doing. So I 100% agree.
What comes to my mind is we as humans are very comfortable with the idea that if I go out to my garage and I know I've got a task that I need to get done, I go out to my garage and I've got hammers, drills, saws, things like that. It might not be the exact right tool, but figuring out how to use the wrong tool to get the job done is easier than figuring out how to engineer a new tool.
Yes.
And that's kind of where we've been, for a long time as a human race. And I think the real challenge with AI is it puts so much pressure on us as humans to figure out how to create the right tool. And I think that's why it's as scary as it is to us, and why its expectations are continuing to blow and expand
100%
faster than the solution behind it.
To me, I will tell you, Ryan, the way I agree with you, and I'm going to add to it. you and I have been around for quite some time. You can tell by the lack of a hair I have, not as wonderful as yours. But our entire relationship with technology has been through screens and some kind of a form, right? Listen, when you logged into this podcast, you had to fill out a form, right? When I sent an email to you, it's basically a form. When I apply for a mortgage, it's a form, right? And so now, kudos to my friends in UI UX, they make it very easy. But it is a form, and that's how we have been trained to interact with technology.
Structured dialogue.
AI changes that whole thing, because now you're now talking to it in natural language. And so you're not filling out a form anymore, right? You are actually literally creating your workflow as you do it. And that's both liberating, but at the same time scary.
Right.
Because like anything else, you give the human more power, and suddenly like, oh, now I need to figure out just what you said. I got to figure out how to ask better questions, right?
Yeah.
That's a cognitive load. But yes, but if you think about all of these things, like I agree with you, the challenges and the promise of AI. I'm curious if you just think about how you guys are actually building or using AI, right? How are you using it in a way that is just, much more impactful, much more methodical? What is your point of view?
So it splits between how we're using AI internally to get our jobs done.
Yep.
And then how we're implementing AI in the product to allow our customers to get their job done.
Great. 100%. I want to dig into both. Where do you want to go?
Okay.
Where would you?
Which one
actually, let's start with it, if you don't mind, because I know. How do you decide what to build with AI? Right.
Love that approach, because I think one of the challenges that a lot of companies get into, and they're like, we need that AI moniker.
Yeah.
So quickly go. What's the fastest thing that we can do that allows us just to say we're doing this? And I think every new technology that comes about, there is that vacuum that's immediately created, that product managers get a lot of pressure from the companies, from their customers to be able to just fill the void and give them something that checks the box. It doesn't matter as much the new tools. You still have to do the job of product management.
You still have to go back to the fundamentals. Yeah.
Right. It's always comes down, the old adage of fall in love with the problem, not your product.
Yes, 100%.
I think that still applies as fall in love with the problem, not the tools that you're using to solve it.
Yes. Yeah.
And so one of the things that we're wrestling with right now, because I just had a team meeting this past week where we had this very conversation. And what we had to map out is we really have three main drivers.
Yep.
The company that I work for today, Motus, is a private equity owned company. So there are very clear, strict business objectives assigned when you are private equity owned, and how you operate the business and what you're trying to go do. That drives very clear requirements. But for every group, the first thing they have to align is, what is our company's objective? And set whatever horizon you want to, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. I think you and I would be on the same page, especially in this day and age. Looking beyond 2 years, you might as well be just throwing darts. I mean,
exactly. I think even a year, well, maybe, yes.
Agreed. So what is the objective? Is it top line? Is it bottom line? Is it valuation? Is it stock price? Is it, what are you trying to do as a company? Because your products are the fuel that your company uses to run its machine.
Yeah, it's a growth engine.
Yeah, company, what is the company's objective? What is the problem? What do we solve for our customer?
Yeah.
Now, as you're looking at that thing, I really I think what AI really challenges for us as humans, we tend to look at history to figure out what we need to do right now. And for so many of our industry, think about how many features you're doing, because that's what's coming out on those support calls. That's what you're hearing from customer success. Yeah. That's what your customers are telling you their problem was last week. And the challenge is that AI changes those things so clearly and so radically that even using the context of trying to define the problem by what your customers are telling you their experiences have been in the past
100%.
Limits your ability to implement and exercise AI moving forward.
Yes.
And so we, as you can tell, I like using little colloquialisms and things. And we were talking about this idea of how do we crawl, walk, run with AI?
Yes.
And what I challenged my team is I said, well, actually think of it this way. We need to crawl, walk, run, glide, fly, soar. Because AI changes the context of what we knew as crawl, walk, run. And if you're always thinking, well, I have feet, I have to figure out how to do things with feet, you'll never be able to address what AI can do to address the problem space.
Yes.
Starting with how do you redefine the problem, thinking about how that would work in an AI world versus how it would work from the world you came from.
Yes. I like that, because I agree with you on both of those things, because I agree. I think a lot of people fall in love with the technology and the tool, and they try to figure out how they can push AI into something, as opposed to going back to the fundamentals and saying, what problem am I solving? Who am I solving it for? And what's the benefit? And I think this is a perfect time to do that, right? It's almost like you got to go back to your roadmap and say, you know what, I think I need to rethink everything, because it does change. And so once you have that foundation, I agree with you, then you can start thinking about how do I use AI in a meaningful way that, you know, I may or may not need all those things in a roadmap, or it might come up with a whole brand new set of things in a roadmap, right? And you know this, right? There's always a tension between, okay, how am I going to release these features versus how am I going to do this transformation piece, right? Because you always have those tug of wars.
Yeah, but that's one of the things that's amazing about this wave.
Yes.
Is this is definitely going to change the way things work as far as how we define a problem, figure out how we're going to address the problem, differentiate from the marketplace, you know, create unique value, all that stuff that is core of being in the product function. But AI and AI technologies also change to the better how we go about doing that kind of work.
Yes.
And just think about last year. I mean, it's crazy that we're thinking about something that recently and say, last year, if you had to do your competitive survey, you had to figure out a market analysis, go from TAM to SAM to SOM.
Yes.
You know, all of the things that you need to do to build a business case to say, this is what we need to go do. You can do that, all that work in a fraction of the time with broader reach and
sometimes better quality. Yes.
Yeah. And the development teams also have that ability of what we thought would take us months to go get done.
Yes.
We're shaving big chunks out of that because, and it's not just that we get to shave big chunks out of what it takes to do that work, but it's that we can now do such a more thorough job of things, of having AI help with, well, now that I've changed this, go check the code and make sure all of the places that we touch and connect to, are those connections still live?
100%.
Give me a document that shows me all those. And sure, we could do that. But like you said, in this world where our roadmaps are always 3-4x longer than what we'll ever be able to get to in a period of time, being able to cover more of that work that we kind of academically know we want to get done to produce great products and very resilient and stable products, we can address that stuff while continuing a remarkable pace of innovation and development. So
I like the fact because
we've got this really unique thing.
100%. I like the fact because you're talking, you bring it back to full circle, right? Number one, AI allows you to build things that you can never thought about building, and AI changes the way you build, right? So now you can build it at a much faster pace.
Right. Right.
I asked, actually, if it's okay with you, I want to double down on the pace thing because I've heard that several times, and there's lots of people who are struggling with it. The question comes down to is like, if you are in this engine in which you're rapidly not only rethinking what you're building, but you're also changing the way you build. So now instead of 5 things, you can build 20 things, right? And you can build 20 things much faster. How does a company, or how do you guys decide which ones to build and which ones not to build, right? Because to me, the biggest benefit of AI is that now you can build anything.
Right.
And the biggest detriment of AI is now you can build everything.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have to figure out, specifically as leaders, you got to figure out where to go focus and where not to go focus, right? Because you can do these things, right? It's actually one of the reasons why you have AI slop everywhere, but that's a different story.
Let me challenge that, because one of the great things about software, and one of the reasons that I love this industry, is you can do anything.
Yes.
Like even before AI, you've got wicked developers, you've got super smart product managers, you've got great QA and launch functions, you've got an awesome sales team. You can do anything. Can has never been the question. Should is always the question.
Yes.
What
100%.
should you do?
Yes.
And I don't think that's changed. Again, this is like we've gone from we've invented a way that allows us to move faster, go better.
Yes.
Here's
well,
what
I agree. I think I agree with you. The question just becomes the pace of how you make those decisions of what should and should not do has changed, right?
True.
So that to me is a much more 100% agree with you that as a business and as a CPO, you have to decide what to do and what not to do, right? Because that's your business strategy and that's how your customers interact with you. The only problem is that before there were maybe 5 decisions. Now there's 20 decisions happening within a week.
Right.
And to me, that is where the change or the pace comes in.
I'm 100% with you. I think what we're struggling with as a team is exactly that. I was watching another one of your podcasts where you're talking about the connectivity to all the launch functions.
Yes.
And that the challenge is not just that we have a new way to develop, or that we've got, like when we invented, or when web was invented and that started changing things, but it was at a pace that we could kind of match it a little more closely with controls to the developments. And I was thinking about, I don't know if you've read that book, The Coming Wave.
I have not, no.
Written by phenomenal book. Like the history, the case studies, it's amazing. But
I'm sorry, what was it? Becoming the Wave?
The Coming Wave.
The Coming Wave. Sorry.
I'm The Coming Wave. And just to make sure that I get it right, it's I looked up the name yesterday just to make sure I had it. And it's Mustafa Suleyman from Microsoft.
Oh, he's from Microsoft. Okay.
Yeah. Phenomenal book. And one of the big points that is in that book, it goes back to that old adage of, if it can be controlled, it must be controlled.
Yeah. And
one of the challenges that we have right now is AI affects so many parts of the business, so many parts of the journey, internal journeys, external journeys, that we're having a really difficult time even coming up and understanding what are the impacts of the changes that are being introduced.
100%.
And this is not like with the web, where all of a sudden people put things out on the web and then we find there's, e-commerce transactions that are getting hacked and, websites that are getting defaced and blah, blah, blah. It was fast, but it was still at a pace that we could somewhat handle it as a society. This wave seems to be moving so fast that, as soon as we think we got something figured out, it's already 2 steps ahead and going down the road.
100%.
And so the fundamental questions of how do you make the decisions of what to build, when to build it, how to position yourself, none of that changes. What changes is you have to be able to make those decisions faster and get alignment of the organization faster.
100%. And that changes, that changes quite a bit because organizations are not built for that level of speed.
Yeah.
Right. And so that requires a rethink of the organization itself and to say, what is it? I agree with you that you still have to be very thoughtful about what you build, right? Because otherwise, and you see it all the time, there's a lot of slop going on all over the place, right? And if you want to think about how it is easy to do that, just look at how YouTube is, right? 20 years ago, video production was really hard, and so few people could do it. Then came YouTube, and then came iPhone, and now everybody can shoot a video, right? And you can see that because there's a lot of video, you see a lot of stuff that's uploaded on YouTube. 99% of it or 90% of it is not great. But that 10% that is really great, they've really put a lot of thought into it, right? And I think the same thing is going to happen with software development as well. So we just have to be more mindful. Actually, we have a comment. If you don't mind, I'm going to put it up on the screen.
Sure.
Thank you, Glenn. Glenn is sharing, I recently started solo development and have been reshaping the application of AI. As a solo developer, the agentic AI is not peril to me. It is my team. 100%, Glenn. And I think that makes a huge difference because AI can literally be the buddy in your seat, helping you build things. If a product teams are still looking at AI as a tool, they should instead look at agents as a member of the team. It's most successful when it truly has access to the full picture. I could not agree with you more, Glenn. I think this is where we're moving towards, right?
Yeah.
And I see it happen all the time with the product teams that we help, in which they are using it. The people who are using it as a tool are not getting as much benefit as people who are thinking about it to use it to augment, amplify, or accelerate whatever they're doing. Right?
And I know this is going like full nerd for the podcast, but
no, we welcome full nerd, please. That's
good.
That's what we focus on.
Thinking about what Glenn's saying, what pops into my head is think about Picard on the Enterprise in Star Trek. They had all this great technology that everybody used.
Yes.
But unless it was given a command, the technology lay dormant.
Yes.
Their biggest conflict came when they were with the Borg.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the Borg and the Starfleet? The Borg were fully assimilated with their technology. And I see that being the thing. And one of the things that I've set as a personal goal for myself is with my team, when we're doing our 2027 planning, right now, we've got a cast of phenomenally talented product managers, and the majority of them are individual contributors.
Right.
At the 2027 reviews, in less than a year from now, every single one of them should be held accountable to saying, here is my agent workforce. This is my career development plans for each of my agents. These are the skills that they need to develop this coming year for me to be able to achieve what I need to achieve for our product line. And unless we're really, like the commentator was exactly on track, is we can't think of this as, oh, it's a tool, I'm going to go use AI now, and then I'm going to drop it and come back here. We have to think about it as, how do I build my AI team? And just like you would manage a human team where you have skill development, career development, you know what your business needs and you know what kind of people you need to get you there. If you're not thinking about how you're driving your AI team to get you there, you're missing the boat.
100%. 100%. I actually think that the more you can embed AI, agent or no agent, whatever you want to call it, into your workflow, into how you do things, in which there's almost, what I call the human AI synergy, Um, because it is both, right? Humans are really good at certain things, and AI is really good at certain things. And if you can figure out how you can get the best of both, and you as an individual, and I think Glenn has another quote, I'm going to put that up, that just makes you much, much more effective, right? And you can do things like I think Glenn is about to share something else. He's 2 months out from building and about to launch an idea to final testing. I think that's awesome. The fail fast mentality has 100% accelerated. Although Glenn, I'll say fail fast in what way? Fail fast in coding, or fail fast in actually putting a product out and seeing if customers ask you that question or not, or if they see value in a product or not. And I agree with you that you can roll back faster as well. And by the way, you see that already with companies like Anthropic. They will push something out. They'll figure out how it is being received, and they'll either roll it back or they'll enhance it. And so their method of fail fast is very much like, let's push something out, let's see how people react, learn from that, and then go for it, right? So I think, Glenn, you're absolutely right. I'm glad AI is managing a roadmap, and I'm glad that it's actually, you're using it the way it should be used right now. And at least this is how people are using it now. Who knows? Ryan, Glenn, a year from now, we could be using AI completely differently based on how the technology evolves.
Absolutely. And I think that is one of the keys is you have to think of the functions that need to get done. You have to think of the things that you can't do now. And each company is built and they decide, and everybody's had this experience, is you've got teams that might have a big army of business analysts. Other companies that use product owners instead of business analysts. You might have market facing and technology facing product managers. You decide how you're going to build the team. And the same thing comes when you're constructing your AI workforce. You're deciding 100%. What are the roles that you want human led, and what are the roles that you want AI led. And each company is going to be able to construct that to create their own dynamism and their approach to market. And that's one of the cool things about it. There's no right or wrong about this. And especially now with so few standards available, it's coming down to how you figure out how to make it work to create great products, solve big problems for your customers, and be able to keep moving things forward without there being a big oops in your release.
I agree with you, and it's unfortunate we're almost running out of time. But that is the last question I had: is how does a company who is in the middle of all this transformation and this new technology really harness the power of AI, right? And I think you said it well, because it is really going back to the fundamentals, right? Because that doesn't change. But at the same time, it allows you to do things that you could never do before at a pace that was never possible before. And so if you try to do, I think you as a company, as any company, needs to be open to that, because that's where the rest of the industry is moving. Right? And that does require, like you said, just an internal rethinking about how you actually build products. And how does a product manager use agents or whatever, or workflows or automation to get their job done better and faster? But at the same time, also make sure that there is the connection between engineering and PM is becoming tighter and tighter. Right? The handoffs that we talk about are almost evaporating. Because if a PM can build a prototype and give engineering a code, that's a very different handoff than a PRD with user stories. And so how do you orchestrate that whole thing changes dramatically.
Well, I mean, we're in tech. So if we back this out to, think about the 90s and the 2000s, the thing that was slowing down a lot of the processing power that we had at the time is the IRQs. Is the interrupts in all of the bus transactions and shifting gears and handing off a PRD, throwing things over the fence, going from product management to business analyst to dev manager to dev to QA. all of those transitions cost. They're all IRQs in our internal process.
Yeah.
I love everything that you were saying about how we need to figure out how to build a smoother flow through that, or more
100%.
importantly, get all of those elements aligned to solving the same problems. So it doesn't require handoffs. Everybody knows what we're trying to accomplish, and they know what their pieces to get it done.
Yeah.
The one thing that I would add, though, is we've said this so many times through our time here today. This shift is just like the internet shift that hit us, and the cell phone shift that hit us. Is we can't just think about it purely as how is it affecting product management, or how is it affecting product management to
it's much bigger. Yeah.
The connectivity goes from what is your customer's itch, and how do you scratch it in such a way to create permanent, lasting benefit to you and your customers. And it's all the links in that chain that go across there that are going to be impacted. And if we think too narrowly about it, we're going to lose the benefit of what the wave is really going to do.
Yes, 100%. And not just the benefit of what the wave is going to do, but really the benefit that you can harness and enjoy as a company, right? Because the more you streamline the whole thing from a customer idea or a customer need or a customer problem to the point at which that you can actually build a solution quickly and get feedback from that customer, just like what Glenn was talking about. The more you can do that better and faster and with quality, that just changes the game for everyone else, right?
100%.
And you can already see that happening, right? You can see that happening between some of the top AI companies already. Like some are publishing almost on a daily basis new stuff. It's hard for you to even for me to keep up, and then others are taking a much more, much different approach. But that's what makes it fun.
That's why we're in these jobs, right?
Perfect. Ryan, I've really enjoyed the conversation. We're way over time, but this is what happens when you actually have a good call. Awesome. Thank you very much for being here. I would love to have you back, maybe even a year from now, to see how things have changed. Because I guarantee you, maybe even 6 months from now, things will change. So,
I think 6 months is the right time frame, and it'll be interesting to see how many things we were wrong about.
Exactly. Well, and that itself is a good thing, because then we learn something. Glenn, thank you for your comments. I see a whole bunch of it. By the way, Glenn is a big fan of your Star Wars analogy. So I think it's Star Trek analogy. I'll take it.
I was just going to say, you crossed lines there, buddy. You might have gotten some flack for that one. But
I'm a big fan of both. So
right there with you.
So, but anyway, thank you very much, Ryan, and thank you, Glenn. Yeah.
Thanks.